Before we go along with this talk, I have a question for all of you. Raise your hand if you know what is this. Raise your hand a bit higher, I cannot see all of you. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, this is a QR code that is there in most restaurants, and a lot of times they don't give you a menu. You have a QR code that you have to scan from your phone and then access the restaurant's menu on their website. And a lot of times, you probably don't have data on your phone. You cannot go to the website, or your phone does not have a QR reader. Then what do you do in that case? They are not giving you a menu. So then my question is, do you really love that experience? Do you love not having a data in your phone or any other Wi-Fi nearby? And it's making it very difficult for you to look at the menu and order something. Like how difficult it is to give the menu, right? And if you're agreeing with me that yes, this is an extremely bad idea, you are not alone. If you look at this tweet by a person with a very funny username, you will know that yes, he's also with the boomers on this, right? He wants the paper menu right in front of him. And if you look at the comment section of this tweet, there's a whole comedy circus going on. I hope all of you can read this. There's this one angry person who is like, if you're not giving me a paper menu, I'm leaving. I'm not staying. He's probably one of us who is the overdramatic person in every consequence. Then the other one is who does not think twice before giving up. He's like, okay, if there's not a menu, I'll probably skip lunch today. And then there's an overthinker. He's like, I don't trust Wi-Fi. Why are you giving me a QR code? Right? So last but not the least, our favorite one, the grammar Nazi. He is not talking about whatever the hell everybody is talking about. He's like, please correct your punctuation. And this, my friends, is a very small description of the life of a product manager. As a product manager, you're collaborating with hundreds of different types of people every day. You're talking to engineers, you're talking to designers, you're talking to salespeople, you're talking to the C-suite, right? We just heard really inspiring stories about how to navigate through C-suite, right? And though that is true for women and people at higher levels, but if you are a product manager, no matter if you're 22 years old, you have to navigate that. So, let's do the formalities first. Who the heck am I? Yes, Sadapin. That guy goes like, oh, Sadapin, please don't come to me asking for a golden ticket after this talk. So I'm Soleha, and I started my career as a product manager at sastaticket.pk. I've been working for 3+ years after that. I've also worked at Satapay for almost one year and 7 months. And then I recently started off working at a Silicon Valley-based startup named Stellec. I graduated from Habib University just last year in the field of computer science, though I've been working since the past 3 years. And I started as an entrepreneur when I just graduated high school. I created a course on udemy.com, and that has impacted all the people that you can see on the map, all the blue circles that you can see on the map. These are almost 2,000+ students from over 100 countries around the world. So you might probably have guessed, entrepreneurship, especially in the edtech space, has always been what I wanted to do. So how did I become a PM? How did I become a PM? It all started when I graduated high school, right? We have a lot of university people, I'm guessing here, and we have all been through that phase, right? We just completed our college or high school and we are like, okay, what do I do with my life now? I was at the same place. And then I decided to take a gap year and discover myself, discover my passions. and I ended up studying computer science. However, there was this one experience during my gap year that has changed the way I pursued my career forward. Like I said earlier, I started my startup, and even though it went along for just a year, it really did teach me that I am really good at business. I am really good at entrepreneurship, and startups is something that I always want to work in. So when I started my degree as a computer scientist, I was like, coding is fun, computer science is amazing, but I cannot imagine myself doing that for the rest of my life. I cannot imagine myself sitting in front of the screen 12 hours a day and coding. I thought that I can give much more of myself to this world than just that. So I started looking for different career opportunities that are an intersection between computer science or technology and business. So I was just randomly, casually scrolling through LinkedIn, and I came across this field called product management. So just with a show of hands, raise your hands if you know what is product management or who is a product manager. Right, there are very few people who know who is a product manager, because this is something you are not taught in universities. This is something you cannot find in your course catalog at universities, right? So this is a field that, even though it's very new in Pakistan, but it's still something that usually people in Pakistan don't know about, even though the field started almost like during 2000s, right, when most of us were born. So it's that old. Then when I decided that, okay, product management is something that I want to do, I started looking for opportunities, and I got an internship opportunity at sastaticket.pk, and that's how I started my career as a product manager. So, again, who is a PM? Like, half of the people, almost 90% of the people don't know who is a product manager. So instead of just talking about myself, I'm going to tell you who is a product manager. I guess all of you got a little glimpse of what a product manager does every day, but it's very difficult to define who is a product manager. And even after working for 3 years in this industry, I still cannot define properly who is a product manager, and it's still the toughest part of my job to explain to people, what the hell do I do? And everybody has a different understanding of what my job role is. And in the end, it just boils down to a chicken roaming around doing the stressful chicken dance. So, on a serious note, who is a product manager, right? A product manager is someone who has to do whatever it takes to make a successful product. And defining the role of a product manager is as difficult as saying, okay, tell me what's a job description of a CEO, right? If I ask any of you, what does a CEO do? Or tell me the job description of a CEO, you won't have an answer, right? Because every CEO is different, every company is different, every company has a different vision, and the CEO has to do just whatever it takes to make that company successful. So, as a product manager, you also have to do whatever it takes to make that product successful. And I like to define this, first of all, by telling you about what sort of questions do you ask with yourself and with your team while you are building a product, because every day looks different. So the questions that you ask could be as different, could be as broad as, how will the product look like, right? So if you are a product manager, some CEO or some C-suite level person will come to you and they'll say, okay, we need to build this. Now as a product manager, it's your job to decide, okay, why are we building this? Why does the company need this? Is this something that our users really want? And if yes, how is this going to look like on the app? Right? Think of a very small feature. How many of you use Instagram? Show me with a raise of hands, right? How many of you use Instagram? And I'm pretty sure a lot of you have seen this app evolve over time, right? One more question. How many of you prefer iOS or an iPhone over an Android? Raise your hands. Have you ever been in a fight with your colleagues that, iPhone is better or Or if you're an Android person, you'll have a fight. No, Android is better, right? And you have your reasons, and these are very right reasons. But the fact that you love either one of them is mostly because of a product manager, right? The product manager, it's his literally their job role to make you love their product. So again, it could start from a very broad question of how the product will look like to an extremely specific question. Could there be any privacy issues in our product? If yes, how do we deal with those? Or if we have decided to build something, what should we build first? Do we really need to build it? What if the product fails? How are we going to cope up with that failure, right? These are all the questions that a CEO asks usually, and that's why if you look at small-sized companies, they don't have a product manager because the CEO is doing all the product manager job stuff. But as the company gets more complex, the need of a product manager gets more prominent. So if I try to boil this down, I've tried my best to explain to you what a product manager does. It comes down to these three things. And it comes down to understanding what's the what of the product, what's your why of the product, and what's your how of the product. The what comes when you have to validate what exactly fulfills your user need. We just had a talk regarding UX design, right? Where Fatim talked about how important it is for her to talk to her users and talk to the designers and then make an experience around user behavior, right? So validate whatever you want to build. And once that what is figured out, you need to ask the why. That why are we building this? Why have we come to this conclusion? Why we are doing this particular what that we just decided in the first step. And then the next part comes, which is how. How means that you do not have to particularly go and code and build that product. Rather, you have to empower your teams. You have to create a vision for your team so that they can go and build that product. So, validating what fulfills your user need is the what, and then asking the why of the product, and then empowering your teams to decide on the how. And if I try to visualize this is how it's going to look like. It's a pretty easy diagram to see if you follow me right now. So this boundary that you see, the solid boundary, is the defining part of it. So as a product manager, you have to decide that boundary. How big is this circle going to be? Which means, what will this product entail? Let me give you an example. We talked about Instagram, right? Instagram recently had this feature where where if you want to share a photo or you want to share a reel, they removed that part where you can add that to your story. And then you can only send it to your friends, and then the option to add that reel or that photo to your story is somewhere hidden down below. This is also a product decision, right? I'm pretty sure some product manager at Instagram made that decision. Why did they make that decision? The reason that I can anticipate is that Instagram wants to empower and Instagram wants to facilitate one-to-one conversations over stories and something that does not involve one-to-one connections. And maybe that's why they made it more difficult for you to add something on your story and made it more easy for you to send it to your friend, because that facilitates a one-to-one connection. So, defining that boundary. What is this feature going to entail? Whatever you want to achieve, what is that and how will it be achieved on the app? And then once you have decided that boundary, you have all sorts of teams working for that purpose. You have the sales team who is going to sell your product. You have the marketing team who is going to market your product. You have engineers who are going to build that product. You have designers who are going to design that product. So what does a product manager do in that case, right? We as product manager, we fill that white space in between. In order to make that circle complete, we have to do whatever it takes to fill that white space. And for every company, it's different, right? In many companies, the engineering teams are more powerful, they are more skilled, they are better at what they do than other companies. And in that case, you don't have to worry about engineering consequences as much as you would do in a company which does not have this. And Same goes for marketing, same goes for design. If there is any department that is cutting short somewhere, you have to make up for it. And that does not mean that if your designer is on vacation, you have to go to Figma and design stuff on your own. It's about acknowledging what could be a blocker in your product and then figuring out how can you deal with that blocker. And then it's about this dotted line as well, which means that you also have to have a vision as to how this circle is going to look like in future. Meaning how your product is going to look like in future and not just 2 weeks from now or a month from now. So yeah, this is what a product manager does, right? If I make it a little easier for you. And then if you're interested in being a product manager, what should you do? I would suggest that since we do not have any formal education of a product manager, there's a lot about product management that is just in people's heads, or it's just in books that nobody will tell you about, or it's just in courses that cost you $900 for a weekend. So if you really want to be a product manager, as a student, as somebody who's going to graduate soon, what should you do? And my answer would be that just solve a problem. Just see a problem around you and ask yourself, how can I solve this problem using technology? Because of course, you want to be a product manager in a software company, then you have to solve a problem using technology. And that does not mean that you go and build an app or you go and build a website. This could entail that, but it's not a requirement. You can also help your local general store automate their inventory process. You can create an Excel sheet for them. You can help them give salaries to their employees using an Excel sheet, right? So Pakistan is not a very tech-savvy country. A lot of the people around us, a lot of shop owners are not very tech-savvy, but they have a mobile phone now. They are slowly getting to the tech world, and you can make use of this by solving a problem using technology. Once you solve that problem, you will have all the skills you need to start your career as a product manager. And now, how to solve that problem, right? Is something very general, is something very vague. So I would suggest to read these really amazing books written by Silicon Valley experts, written by the pioneers in the field of product management. You can take a screenshot or take a picture for your ease, but these are the books that I would extremely suggest for somebody who wants to start out their career as a product manager. And if you're not a book reader, it takes a lot of time, I don't have a very good focus, then in that case, I would suggest you follow all these people that I have listed here on LinkedIn. The first one is a newsletter. The newsletter is on YouTube, any of the podcast app that you use. Follow that newsletter, and they have a weekly talk and a podcast where they bring in industry leaders and talk about how they build successful products. Something that is very new, very cutting edge, and not something that you will hear from the 1980s. And then all these creators, all these content creators who are just like us, who are probably from the South Asian community, who are as brown as us, but they have excelled in their career as a product manager, and they are here to teach all of us for free on LinkedIn about how to become a successful product manager. So follow these people as well. I'll let you guys take pictures if you want. And once you follow those, you'll keep getting suggestions of all the leaders in this field. So please do follow them, as the knowledge of product management is not something that you can learn through a YouTube video, right? You need a practical experience for that. You need to learn from people who have practical experience about this field. So if I boil down everything that I just said, it's gonna come to this. Do whatever it takes to make your product successful. And if you look at my story, I do not belong to a very financially settled family. I have struggled with finances throughout my life. I have been bullied and called as a nerd because I had to study all the time so that I do not lose my scholarship. But I have finally made it, right? And when I was at university, I just mentioned that I have been working full-time at different startups along with pursuing my full-time bachelor's in computer science. Even though it has been really stressful, but it has taught me one of the best skills that a PM could have, which is to prioritize painfully. All the women here before me, they also talked about prioritization. It helps you at every walk of your life, but it is a most important skill for a product manager to have, because as a product manager, you will have all sorts of different requests from all sorts of different people. Now it's about you. It's up to you to prioritize which one of those requests help the company, help our user more than the others. And through these experiences, I have learned to do whatever it takes to pursue my education. I have learned whatever it takes to not let my circumstances have a consequence on my career. I have learned whatever it takes to survive. And I'm sure that all of us have done whatever it takes to get what you want. So, as a PM, you'll also have to do whatever it takes to make that product successful. It's not very easy, especially if you're working at startups where things are so fluid, where things are changing so quickly. It's extremely difficult. It's extremely stressful. But I promise you that it will be worth every drop of your blood, sweat, and tears. And it's the most rewarding profession that I have seen in my experience so far. So, do you dare to be a product manager? Thank you. Thank you so much for bearing me through the last 20 minutes.